and I'm starting Zoom right now.
Okay, thanks, Carla.
You're welcome. Just a second. You are live.
Thank you, Carla.
You're welcome.
And welcome, everyone. Welcome, committee. Welcome, Barb. And welcome, everybody who's here, both in person and virtually. This is committee number 6, House, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources. And Barb, if you would please call the roll.
Representative Banks.
Here.
Representative Haroldson.
Here.
Representative Hunt.
Here.
Representative Jennings. Representative Knapp.
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Newsom.
Excused.
Representative Sweeney.
Here.
Representative Winter.
Here.
Chairwoman Flitner.
Here, thank you. And welcome, everybody. All right, our first bill we will be addressing is House Bill 115. And Chairman Paxton, please join us. Big or trophy game animal minimum hunting age. Good to see you. Nice break from your education meetings, I'm sure.
Yes, it is.
Well, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I bring to you today House Bill 115. It's a relatively simple bill. The whole essence of the bill is at the bottom of page 1. And really what it does is this too loud? Am I echoing back and forth over there? Is it all right? What it does is that if you read the section at the bottom of it, ordinarily you have to be 12 years of age in order to hunt big game or trophy game. And this makes a provision so that if your birthday falls within that year, the year that you turn 12, that it does allow for you to take a big game or trophy animal. So that's really the essence of the bill. And I would stand for any questions.
Committee, questions? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. One real quick question. Would this also allow them to go into special draws before in that same calendar year? So if they were to do a special draw for deer or antelope or elk, would they be able to enter into a special draw before they turn 12 years of age? Or would this only be for general licensing?
Chairman Paxton.
Madam Chairman, that was the intent of the bill, yes.
Further questions, committee? Representative Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So they still would have to complete hunter safety. That's my first question. Then secondly, on some of this, I worry that we're opening up possibly erring on the wrong side when we go too young, because of, so some of the kids may not be expecting, the recoil from a rifle, and they get a big bruise on their shoulder, which even at a recent pheasant hunting situation, I came back with a pretty bruised shoulder. So, but do you, first on the part of hunter safety, but then secondly, do you have concerns that we could get too young?
Chairman Paxton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In the area of hunter safety, yes, they do have to abide by all the current laws that would cover the hunter safety situation. And as to the second part of the question, I think we have to trust a little bit in the parental or supervisor, adult custodian of the child. I have a grandson who at age 11 was 5'6" and weighed 160 pounds. I have a granddaughter that would have to jump on the scales to weigh 80 pounds and is about 5 foot tall. And so I think that, I would agree with you that there is some concern about the readiness of that person, and the physical stature of it does make some difference. And I would have to say that I would have to trust in the parent or custodial person to make that decision for the child. So the idea is to get them involved as soon as possible and not to turn them off to the whole hunting experience.
Thank you. Further questions, committee? Chairman Paxton. Oh, Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So Chairman Paxton, can you give us the genesis to this idea? I mean, what problem was occurring that we want to move the date?
Chairman
Madam
Paxton.
Chairman. Well, I guess I could use a personal experience. My birthday's in December. And I have a brother, an older brother, whose birthday is in January. And so when it comes right down to it, just because he's got a birthday 2 weeks different than what my birthday is, he's got a full year of opportunity ahead of what I had. And so I think that was what the problem is that they're trying to cure, or the system, what they're trying to address in that particular thing.
Okay. So I think for now, you just stay put, if you will, Chairman Paxton. And I believe we have Chief King, unless there's any legislator in the room who'd like to testify to this. I don't think so. She's here on the next bill. So Chief King with the Game and Fish, I see you are on the list to testify. So if you'd like to join us, please do.
I'm bringing him in.
All righty. Welcome, Vice Chairman Newsom. Hello, Chief King. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good afternoon. I will stand by for any questions that you have. I think Representative Paxton summed this legislation up very well. And from the department standpoint, we really don't have any considerations to bring forth for you. It's fairly straightforward and could stand to, this bill could stand to benefit quite a few of those 11-year-olds who currently can participate in the draw and draw a license. They just can't utilize that license until they turn 12. And so with this simple bill, those 11-year-olds will be able to potentially participate in the entire season rather than waiting for them to turn 12, which could be later in the year. So I'll simply stand by for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Committee, questions for Chief King? Yes.
I guess I just have one, Madam Chair. Thank you. What is the purpose of an age requirement now?
Chief King.
Madam Chair, Representative Knapp, it really boils down to safety, safety for both the young participant and for others that are out there. So I think there's the minimum age and combined with a hunter safety requirement and the need for parent or guardian supervision all helps create a safe environment for all participants that are out there participating in hunting activities.
Thank you. Further questions for Chief King, committee? All right. Thank you, sir. And Carla, I have several names on my list, but I don't know if they're here to speak to this bill or the next. So if there's another state agency, if they'd like to speak, please raise their hand. If not, we will move on to public testimony. And anybody wanting to speak, please raise your hand and Carla can bring you into the room.
Madam Chairman, I'm bringing two ladies in
Okay.
right now.
Door must have shut on them.
Hi, can I speak? I mean, is it my turn? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes,
Hello.
that's me.
Thank you for joining our committee. And if you would, please identify yourself and if you're affiliated with an organization, and then proceed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and the committee. My name is Madhu Anderson, and I am a resident of Rock Springs. I lived in Rock Springs for over a decade or almost a decade now, and I am opposed to this bill HB 0115. I have a couple of reasons why I oppose this bill. The first one is I think it can be emotionally and physically dangerous to the very young children who are below 12 years old. Madam Chair, most of the children have natural sympathy and compassion for animals, especially if the animals are bigger than their body. And if we encourage them to kill such a big animal, not the smaller animal than who is smaller than their size, but bigger animals, then it's pretty intimidating for them, and it's very heavy on their emotions. And I believe that if this bill passes, then it will encourage the parents to teach the children that it's okay to do trophy hunting. And I don't know how will they explain about the ethical parts of that. So it will be hard on the parents and the children together. And I think it could be dangerous physically too, because children are usually loud and they have shorter attention spans that could actually disturb our wildlife as well. It could be dangerous for the people who are with them during the hunt. And if children sometimes, if they don't get a good shot, like marginal shot, or the animals get wounded, then it can scar the child for the rest of his life, and it can really turn him off from hunting. So I really do oppose this bill 115. Please do not pass this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. We appreciate your comments. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Carla, do we have someone else?
Yes, Madam Chairman, Julie McAllister's on the screen now.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Ms. McAllister. If you would please identify yourself and if you're affiliated with any organization.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, committee, especially with this extensive week you've all had. I see a few of you are taking the opportunity to have a little bit of lunch, and we do all appreciate your time. Representative Paxton as well for bringing this. My name is Julie McAllister. I live in Rock River, north of Laramie, in Mr. Paxton's district. I was one of the people encouraging this bill to be brought for a couple of reasons, and I'd like to address briefly, but hopefully within appropriate time, the concerns brought up. My grandson is a large reason I'm bringing this bill and was encouraging this bill to be passed, and I encourage you all to think seriously on it. He also has a December birthday. He's currently almost 5 foot tall and 117 pounds, shoots my .30-06 at the range on a regular basis with no issues. He's not in the room testifying with me today because he did not complete his homework this morning. So even though he's known about this bill and he's aware of it, and this is so important to his life, I have made the parental decision. He can't testify because he didn't listen. So I would ask that, as always, with anything hunting, to trust the guardians and the parents to let us show them the right way, the wrong way, even things that are this important to them. Secondly, on the genesis of the idea, I think Mr. Paxton represented the issue very, very well, but I'd like to bring another thought to your minds on this. The ages between 11 and 13 are so critical to a child's social life. In Wyoming, hunting is not just a sport, it's a way of life for so many of us. Kids these days are up against digital competition like never before. They're up against cost and hunting like never before. Current ammo shortages is a good example. We can't be missing windows when kids are interested and engaged and dying to do these sports. We start our children out 3, 5 years old in the vehicle where it's safe, teaching them to be quiet, teaching them how to respect animals in every aspect of hunting, like I'm sure many of you do. We lose this opportunity with this law because of coincidence of date. And kids are often in the same social groups, very, very often in the same classes, graduating at the same time. Opening this up to the kids is really just a way of making it fair to them. The last thing I just would ask you to really consider is to address this from the idea of the 11-year-old who doesn't get to go this year and trying to understand for that child why. If they're strong enough, if they've learned the skills and the parents and guardians have done everything they're supposed to do, which this law removes no other safety aspect. Hunter safety still a requirement. Every other age requirement is still in place. Nothing else is changing except allowing the kids that turn 12 within that year to do everything else every other kid who turns 12 in that year can do. And that can be a matter of dates, as Mr. Paxton so well represented to us. It's a very hard thing to explain. I've seen more than one family completely change their family plans to accommodate one child. In fact, one of my grandson's teachers this year will be changing all of their hunting plans this year to accommodate a birthday that falls in October. With that, I'll stand for any questions. I really do appreciate all of you guys' time, especially in this trying session. And I ask you to correct this. This is just unfair to the kids, and trust in the parents, as we do with all other hunting laws that apply to kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister. Questions, committee? All right, thank you. Anybody else online to testify, Carla?
Madam Chairman, I don't have any other hands up right now.
All right, very good. Well, we'll move to people in the room. Come join us.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jesse Johnson, Wyoming Wildlife Federation. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think the comment before was spot on, and we stand in support of this bill. Anything that is helping the youth get in and get in early in this amazing state and the amazing opportunities we have is something we support, and we support the at the discretion of the parents as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Questions for Ms. Johnson? All right, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further public testimony? Seeing none, public testimony is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Bill's been moved by Newsom, seconded by Knapp. And let's move through the bill. Page 1. Any questions or amendments? Page 2. All right, questions or comments on the bill, committee? Representative Knapp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to reluctantly vote against this bill. The reason I asked the question I did to Chief King about the age factor, why do we have an age factor? And he responded, safety. And I can only akin this to a driver's license. We choose an age for a driver's license for exactly the same reason. They go through a course, it's about safety. And at a certain age, they are given a license to be able to drive. I trust that some parents teach their kids to drive much sooner than that. We have what's known as a hardship license for them to get a license even younger. I believe that there's many, many families and many parents out there that could have their kids hunting at a much younger age. But we do have this in statute, and it's for a reason, no different than a driver's license. And for that reason, I would have to vote no.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm actually going to dive in on the other side. We've got a lot of amazing programs in the state that get young people into the field, young people behind a rifle. It'd be a props while I'm bringing it. I got to pick a video of my 8-year-old son doing a quarter mile with a 7mm, and he can do it consistently. He's very good at that. I understand not every kid's in that same place. There still has to be discretion, but for the kid that all the rest of his friends, all the rest of his classmates get to take big game that year, and he doesn't because he got born 1 month too late. It's a really rough game, especially in the Western culture we live in, where these kids, that is a huge part of their life, is the hunting season. I mean, you go into any public school during October, and October 1st or the 15th, a lot of kids aren't in class because they're out in the field. And so for a lot of these kids, I think that they're very much at a disadvantage, like you said, by a 1-month birth date situation. So also, I love the fact that these kids can then apply for draw permits, draw tags, and be able to get those and hunt with those. My son right now actually asked me if I could change the legal hunting date to age 10, and I told him no. But I do believe this is a great idea. So I am definitely on and for this. And thank you very much to the good bringer who is saying, you know what, let's give these kids an opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, Barb, if you'll call the roll.
Representative Banks. Representative Haroldson. Representative Hunt. Representative Jennings. Representative Knapp. Vice Chairwoman Newsom. Representative Sweeney. Representative Winter. Chairwoman Flitner.
Aye.
6-3.
Thank you. Congratulations, Chairman Paxton. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. All right. We move on to House Bill 156. Representative Sherwood, welcome to Committee 6, TRW. Is this your first time to present a bill as a Wyoming legislator? Very good. Well, we're happy to have you. And again, before us is House Bill 156, 24-hour wine permits. It's brought to us by Representative Sherwood, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the House Travel, Recreation, and Wildlife. I bring you House Bill 156, 24-hour wine permits, and ask for your favorable consideration. This bill comes as a request from Wyoming wineries.
One moment, just is your mic on?
Oh,
Is
it's
it green?
green.
Okay, maybe scoot a little closer. I don't think it's picking you up. We don't want to miss a word.
Thank you. Is that better?
That's better. Thank you, ma'am.
Wonderful. This bill is a request from our Wyoming wineries and has been vetted by the division that regulates and enforces liquor sales, and is also supported by the association that represents Wyoming liquor retailers. It would give Wyoming wineries, those who manufacture their own products, the same ability distilleries and breweries already have to host events off premise for promotion and sales. Simply put, this is a winery version of House Bill 219, alcohol beverages, 24-hour permits, which went into effect in July 1st of 2019. That bill allowed distilleries to have these permits, while this bill gives that same ability to our Wyoming wineries. It does not allow private citizens to be wine retailers, which would be a concern for enforcement and retailers alike. This bill allows for 12 manufacturer off-premise permits annually for promotional events. By supporting this bill, we are giving our wineries a new tool to market their products and increase revenues. With that, I will do a quick walkthrough of the bill. It is a short one, pretty straightforward. On page 1, it states the purpose of the bill to create a 24-hour permit for winery permit holders to sell their manufactured wines offsite. Page 2 creates a new subsection G to the recently adopted House Bill 13. Lines 1 through 5 describes the off-premise events and gatherings the wine permit holder can sell at. Lines 5 through 8 limits the sale location to the areas identified in the off-premise wine permit. Lines 8 through 11 limits the time period to the permit to just 24 hours. Lines 11 through 13 limit the number of off-premise wine permits to 12 months in a calendar year. And lines 13 through 18 identifies the role the local license authority has in issuing the permits and puts a maximum and minimum range between $10 and $50 that the authority may charge for each individual 24-hour permit. With that, I will ask for your favorable consideration and stand for any questions that you might have.
Committee, questions? Representative Sherwood? None? I have questions.
Easy peasy.
All right. So with regard to the top of page 2, where you're being very prescriptive about where this permit could be used, conventions, private parties, dinners. I'm just wondering about the prescriptive language, and if we needed, I was thinking maybe after wine on page 3, line 3, sorry, on page 2, line 3, all the way down to after gatherings on line 5, if that language is even necessary. I was just wondering if, there's a reason to be prescriptive, or if it would be harmful to be more broad. And maybe that's a question for the Liquor Commission, or division rather.
Madam Chair, I am open to this friendly amendment to remove the language so that we're not limiting future events that may be redefined in communities.
Thank you. And then Representative Sherwood, I just on lines 13 and through 15, where it speaks to an off-premises wine permit may be issued on application to the appropriate licensing authority. I don't understand that language. Just help me understand it a little better. Because it speaks to a permit at the top of the page, the wine permit on line 2.
Mhm.
And then it also speaks to this the off-premises wine permit may be issued on application to the appropriate licensing authority. I mean, I'm assuming that's all just probably standard language, and the issuing authority must be your county commissioners. Okay. I see if I would ask these questions out loud, then maybe I would find the answers and not do it in front of everybody in committee and embarrass myself.
I would defer that question to the division that regulates or promotes, just to
Okay.
help with clarification.
Okay, very good. Further questions, committee? Okay, Carla, do we have agency, anybody online who from any executive branch who would like to testify?
I can't tell the agencies exactly. Oh, Dan Noble.
Okay,
I'll bring him in, and then we have another panel or another person that would like to be promoted, Thomas Montoya.
very good.
Bring him in as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Noble, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the committee, I'm Dan Noble, Director of the Department of Revenue. The bill before you, as Representative Sherwood said, is designed to kind of place wineries on the same footing as other, specifically malt beverages, because it's they have that already have that opportunity for these 24-hour permits. So it aligns them with that. The language that was being described at the very beginning is something that is fairly similar to what is already in place for malt beverages as well, as far as the prescriptive language. It already exists in the other statutes. And the portion associated with local licensing authorities is something that is kind of common throughout all licensing for retailers as well as these types of permits. It exists in law in other areas of the statutes as well. And for that, I'll stand for any other questions you may have.
Very good. Questions for Director Noble? Yes, Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Director Noble. I'm actually going to kind of reiterate the question of Madam Chairman, and that is these permits would be, if I remember right from whenever I was with our local chamber as a chairman, those go through the local municipalities. So like our local town municipality, not the county, correct?
Director Noble.
Madam Chairman, Representative Haroldson, it would depend on the authority. So it could actually, I believe, could be a county as well.
Okay.
But it is most often used in municipalities, but it can be a county authority as well.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Director Noble, committee? Representative Jennings, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Noble, good to see you today. So my question comes in lines 15 and 16 on page 2. So the local licensing authority could be the city, the municipality, or the county. So what is the additional permit fee? Are we just saying, look, city, if you want to make a little extra $50 here, do it if you want?
Madam Chairman, Representative Jennings, actually, this is language that is identical to what it has been for years with the malt beverage permit as well. And as a matter of fact, the costs are identical. I believe it's no less than $10 and no more than $50. for a 24-hour period is exactly the language that exists for malt beverages as well for this same type of license. So I think if nothing else, it covers the costs of issuing these permits, making sure that they're done in an appropriate area. And I think that's probably the reason for the existence.
Thank you. Further questions for Director Noble?
Follow up.
Follow up, Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So in line 6, it says that they shall. So is the authority, they have to do the permit, and then we come down to line 15, 16, when because it's prescriptive in other legislation, now we're doing permissive? Am I reading that correct, Director?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, excuse me, Representative Jennings, I think the issue is that the licensing authority will issue the permit as long as it is in the locations, the prescriptive locations above. I think that's really the intent of the language, is to say, okay, as long as it's going to be done in these areas, the permit should be issued. But it says that shall issue the permit there, but it says it may issue it with a fee as long as it is issued in these prescriptive areas. That's, I believe, the intent. Obviously, the reason for a licensing authority having this is to ensure that that everything that is being required is done.
Thank you, Director.
Mm-hmm.
Representative or Vice Chairman Newsom.
I believe if you read on line 6, that shall, but if you go up to line 5, it says no permittee holding an off-premise wine permit shall sell or
Mm-hmm.
permit consumption of any of their manufactured product off the premises described. So that's a shall having to do with the permittee behaving in the prescribed method of the permit.
Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Vice Chair. So actually, 15, 16 is actually more lined up with line 1, if I'm understanding you correctly.
I believe so. All right, further questions, committee? Director Noble, we thank you for joining us. Thanks, and don't run away. Another question may arise.
Certainly, I'll be
Mr.
here.
Montoya, would you please join us?
Madam Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you. I am Tom Montoya, Chief of Enforcement for the Wyoming Department of Revenue Liquor Division. Representative Sherwood did an amazing job at describing this bill. So I'll just further answer some of the questions that Director Noble really answered. This all does tie together. It's a pretty simple concept. The application is an application that a local licensing authority, which can either be a city council or a board of county commissioners. Oftentimes they give that authority to either the city clerk or the county clerk. But oftentimes the city council wants to approve such thing, or a board of county commissioners wants to approve the permit and the application. And the application is outlines exactly where this function is going to take place. So really the application is based on where the premises of this function is going to happen. So if a winery in northern Wyoming wanted to have a function in southern Wyoming, they would go to that premise location. If it was within the capital city, they would go to the city clerk's office and get a permit. The additional fee is they actually pay a permit fee for the winery. The legislature a number of years ago did allow for the dual holding of a retail, restaurant, bar and grill, resort liquor license with a winery license. So if they pay a fee for, say, a full retail license, they don't have to pay a fee for the winery license, but the additional fee would be somewhere between $10 and $50 for just the 24-hour permit. So it really does tie together.
Very good. Questions for Mr. Montoya? Oh, yes.
Mr.
Representative Banks.
Montoya, I don't know if this would be a question for you, or maybe just to throw it out there. If if I was hosting an event in my community, for instance, and invited multiple wineries, would each of those wineries then require their own permit, or would it be one permit that would cover, say, a winery that came from Northwest Wyoming, a winery from my community, et cetera?
I think economic development wheels are spinning in Representative Banks's head. Mr. Montoya.
Madam Chairwoman, Representative Banks, each one would have to have their own permit based on current law.
Vice Chairman Newsom.
So I have on occasion got a malt beverage permit. And each of the vendors, we had multiple vendors of malt beverage, and each of them did not have to get a permit. I just got a permit as the owner of, it was, for example, we have the theater in Cody, or we did, and we would host a movie night with, in conjunction with some of our home brewers, or with some of our, not home brewers, but some of the local breweries. And we would buy the malt beverage permit, and then they would be able to come set up. And I'm wondering if this would be, with Representative Banks' question, if this would be similar, or if we were out of line.
Don't throw her in jail.
Don't throw me in jail. The statute of limitations has probably expired. But I'm curious, in those two scenarios where you have multiple breweries in a venue, or multiple wineries in a venue, that if the wineries would have to each get a permit, if the breweries should have gotten each a permit, or if the venue could get the permit and host several different vendors.
Mr. Montoya.
Madam Chairwoman, Representative Newsom, that's a great question. It really is, because we see this a lot, especially with the Oktoberfest. And usually when there's an Oktoberfest or a Brew Fest or whatever they want to call them somewhere in the state, and just about every community does one, there is some sort of a nonprofit association. For the one that happens here in the capital city, there is a nonprofit that raises money for the Depot Museum. And that is the person who gets the actual beer permit. So they are the ones who are doing the selling. The local microbreweries that attend this are really donating beer, or they're selling it to a local malt beverage wholesaler who's working with the nonprofit, and the nonprofit is buying the beer from them. So it's actually the nonprofit who's selling the beer. But the microbreweries are allowed to come. In fact, we codified that in House Bill 13 this year. They're allowed to come and pour their beer and represent it so they can promote their beer. So that's where the difference lies in. Now, in the case of wineries, could they do that? Absolutely. That is done with a lot of fundraisers. You'll see, especially in wintertime, big fundraisers will happen. And it'll be, again, a nonprofit. There's one that happens here in the capital city, and they raise money for St. Mary's School. But it is actually St. Mary's School who will work with a local retailer, and they get a catering permit, because there's now they can do the wine permit if this bill were to pass, but that wasn't available unless this bill passes. And so they would work with the local retailer, but it's actually them who are selling it, not the wineries. So it really depends on how it is set up. We answer a lot of questions on this all year long. It just really, it can normally be done, 99.9% of the time can be done. It just depends on how they want to do it.
Thank you for the clarification. Yeah. Further questions? Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Carla, anybody else online that wants to testify?
Madam Chairman, I don't see any other hands up at this time.
Okay.
Wait just a second. I spoke too soon. Mr. Scott Lair, I'm going to bring him over.
Very good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Lair, welcome to TRW.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Scott Lair. I own the Great Untamed in Laramie. It's a winery, and I had a part in asking Trey to get this bill started. So, yeah, I would just like to speak in favor of it. I mean, for wineries, it's obviously a good thing. Can help us with our sales and exposure. Um, I've been open for about 5 years, and I've had to turn down a lot of events just because of the way that the laws are currently written, and this would help out a lot with that. And I think it would also make the rules the same for wineries as for everyone else. So that's a good thing. And I don't see any downsides to it. So, yeah, I'm just going to ask you guys all to please support it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lair. We appreciate it. Committee, anybody have a question for Mr. Lair? Very good. What's your specialty wine? What do you have a particular, is it a cab or what is it?
Oh, yeah, I mostly do meads, honey wines.
Oh, great.
It's easier to find honey than grapes around here.
I've never tried a mead. All right, I digress. All right, we will move to the room. Thank you, Mr. Lair. We appreciate it. So please come forward if you would like to testify to this bill. Mr. Moser. Please introduce yourself for our new members who do not know who you are.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Mosier, Wyoming State Liquor Association. We support this legislation. It's rather a happy piece of legislation. For those of you who don't know me well, even though I do have a few assets, sometimes I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And when the good bill sponsor came to me with this concept, my hair was a little on fire about catering, or about whether catering permits or whether we'd have to mess with malt beverage permits or whatever. And I called Mr. Montoya and he said, House Bill 219. And I said, which one was that? And he said, it was only 2 years ago. And this did the same thing for distilleries. And so we looked into 219, which passed the House, I think 57-3, and the Senate 30-0. Because what it did is it's verbatim. I mean, the language you were asking about, all of you were asking about, is in House Bill 219, and it already exists for distilleries. And so in our great wisdom and creativity, we basically got a jar of white out, took 219, whited out where it said distillery, and put winery in. So it was a pretty complex process. And so that makes, I mean, to me, it's just a good bill. We should have thought about wineries in the first place, but they weren't really asking for it. Now, regarding the language questions, 219's been in statute for several years now, and we've not had any problems with the existing statute, and this mirrors 219 perfectly. So I would not perceive any problems with that. Now, one of the questions I do get, Madam Chairman, is why do we pick 12? Why not more or less or whatever? Well, 12 mirrors the number we gave distilleries. And so literally it's a mirror image bill of House Bill 219, which I believe Chairman Zwanitzer was the primary sponsor of. Now, if we decide to raise them down the road, sure. Some of you who have known me for a while, Representative Sweeney, remembers back when we were both retailers, we only were allowed 6 catering permits. And then there was a bill to take it to 12 back in the late 90s. In fact, I remember it was a promising young freshman legislator from Torrington that brought it out. His name was Ed Buchanan. I don't know what happened to him after that, but anyway, it was a fun little bill. And then we went to 12, to 24, then to 36. But you do things incrementally just to make sure you're not doing it too much. I mean, too much of a good thing is still too much. And so we support this bill. We think it's good for our wineries. It gives them marketing opportunities, which is really what a lot of it is. It's promotion. It's, hey, come taste our wines. Mr. Montoya mentioned the St. Mary Wine Festival, where we use a retailer's catering permit. But this way, they don't need a retailer to do it. They can bring out their product. Everybody can taste it. It involves wine. It involves business. It's just plain happy. One of the things with bills like this, and some of you are new, is I like reminding people that even though this bill is about businesses, that produce alcohol, it's still a business bill. It just happens to involve alcohol. And that's why they usually pass pretty well, because it's a business friendly bill. Alcohol is just a peripheral product. You still still have to get the regulations, you still have the permitting process. And so you have all the stopgaps in place. In fact, in this case, the city could require, for example, alcohol server training for anybody that does this. So I just see it as a good bill, members of the committee and Madam Chairman, and I would be more than happy to take any questions, even though, as I mentioned, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Questions for Mr. Mosier? Representative Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So, Mr. Mosier, do you know offhand how many wineries we have in the state? And then do we have any vineyards that are actually growing their own grapes or just crushing?
Madam Chairman, Representative Sweeney, I believe there are 9. By contrast, I believe there's 17 distilleries. They do grow some of their own grapes. Some of them are meaderies, like the fine gentleman who testified last. I believe there's another one up in Gillette that's a meadery. But some of them do grow their own grapes. Kind of like the triumph of hope over experience, I guess, in this weather. But I've actually got some friends with some pretty good vineyards even here in Laramie County. One of them, I think one of the original ones that grew their own, is in far eastern Wyoming. And I don't think Napa Valley has any concerns of being overrun by them, but it is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to have Wyoming grown grapes. But some of them do just ship in the juice and then make the wine themselves.
I actually have a winery in Bighorn County in Lovell. Can you believe that? Yeah. No, we got to get out. Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We actually, about 5.5 miles from my house, we have a vineyard and winery. And we also have a distillery in Platte County as well. So yeah, they do a big event every fall where the kids get to come and help pick grapes, and the kids love that. So.
Okay. Further questions for Mr. Mosier? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Anybody else like to testify? Seeing none, then public testimony is closed. Committee, what is your pleasure? Bill has been moved by Hunt and seconded by Banks. All right, let's move through the bill. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. All right. Any questions, comments before we move to the vote? Representative Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to know from Representative Haroldson, who stomps the grapes?
Winter wants an invitation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The one with the stained feet is what I think the appropriate question or answer is to that.
All right. Question having been called. Barb, would you please call the roll?
Representative Banks.
Aye.
Representative Haroldson.
Aye.
Representative Hunt.
Aye.
Representative Jennings.
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Chairwoman Newsom.
Aye.
Representative Sweeney.
Aye.
Representative Winter.
Aye.
Chairwoman Flitner.
Aye.
All ayes.
Very good. Congratulations, Representative. A win, your first time up to bat. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, committee, thank you. And just so everybody knows, let's see. Thursday, we are hearing Representative Jennings has a bill up, and then Representative Summers has a joint resolution that we will be addressing on Thursday. And then also just to give you a heads up to the muscle, we all got the memo from the governor's office. Yeah, the zebra mussels. We're all of the executive branch agencies, in an effort to try to ward off this potential catastrophe, have joined forces, and we'll probably have a joint committee meeting with TRW just to get up to speed on their efforts. And then also we'll probably be bringing an amendment to the budget bill that puts money back into the governor's emergency fund to help them alleviate this crisis. And then any funds that they do not use that are unexpended by January of 2022 will go back to the general fund. But it's just in an effort to try to give the executive branch a little more money, or the governor's office rather, a little more money to try to ward off this really a potential huge disaster that is looming over our state right now with the zebra mussels. All right, well, with that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.